All right, afternoon, guys. I don't know if any of you guys have been on one of these webinars before. I'm sure you have. If you have, then it's me as usual. If you haven't, then just let me know. Because what I was going to do today is that if you are familiar with Kaligo, and you are using Kaligo or you have used Kaligo before, what I was going to do is go straight into the new features of Kaligo. So quick question for yourself, John and Sarah. Have you guys used Kaligo or are you currently using Kaligo?
Hi Phil. No, I've not used Kaligo before. I've got two staff here, a P2 and a P3 teacher as well. They've not used it before. But one of our other P2 teachers, she's had the training,
Okay.
and she used it when she was in primary three. So I do know of one staff member that's got it. And again, happy to roll out to the P4s as well with once the recording video comes out and we can see if we can get to the P4s as well.
Okay, then I'll start from scratch. Sarah, yourself?
Yes, I have been using it for 2 years now. Um, but I have been very much sticking to what I'm familiar with. So I would really, yeah, you know how it is. You just get used
Yep,
to using
absolutely.
something. So I really, well, I'm excited to hear about the new features, particularly, but just a wee refresher really so that I'm utilising it as well as I can.
No worries. So I'll start from scratch in terms of the teacher dashboard. So I'll show you the features of the teacher dashboard in terms of onboarding, setting changes. I'll talk a little bit about inclusivity, right? So when we build Kaligo, we always build it with inclusivity in mind. For example, as you know, one, if not two children in every five have some sort of educational needs, special educational needs, whether it's dyspraxia, dysgraphia, dyslexia. The settings within Kaligo, you're able to break down the cognitive overload for those students. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then you have screening capabilities in Kaligo as well. So I'll show you that. I'll show you the teacher dashboard in terms of how you can quickly assign. And when I say quickly assign, everything within Kaligo on your educational dashboard is curriculum-led content. So for your spelling, for your phonics, which, as I was mentioning to Julie, I don't know if you guys heard that, we're actually going to start recording it using a teacher in Scotland, so you can pick up the phonological nuances between, say, somewhere like the UK. We have the same issues in Ireland in terms of pronunciation, which will bring you closer alignment. But the point I'm making is that from a teaching perspective, in terms of one-to-one, in terms of explicit instruction, traditional instruction, however you want to use Kaligo to teach, however you want to use Kaligo to assess, it's all very quick and easy to use, and you cannot break it, right? So please play around with it. In order to delete something, you would have to press delete, and then you'd have to accept, and then it will ask you, are you sure you want to do it? So don't ever be afraid to use Kaligo. Um, why handwriting? I'll very quickly talk about handwriting. Handwriting uses your graphomotor skills, and scientifically proven that your graphomotor skills are the skills in order to help you memorize and write with momentum. But when you're writing with momentum, it goes into your long-term memory. So it comes back very fast for your literacy recall. So we see increased levels in reading. Obviously, you're using your fine motor skills, which obviously helps. But that's our DNA. Our DNA has always been in handwriting around Kaligo. The handwriting element is fully scaffolded across primary. Our phonics is fully scaffolded as well. So you have your screeners in there per the DFE, the Department of Education. So at phase 2 or 3, I can't remember which one it is, and then phase 5, it will tell you you have to screen students in order to identify what they know and what they don't know in phonics. That's all built in. Very easy to assign that over to a student. When it comes back after they complete their assessments, you'll go onto your teacher dashboard. You'll go, okay, so I know where my students sit in terms of benchmarking, and I'll specifically know what their strengths and weaknesses are. And in terms of blending, segmenting, decoding, environmental sounds, whether you're working on phase 1 or phase 5 or phase 6, you will know exactly what students know and don't know. So you'll know how to quickly intervene to support those students. But the whole idea around the teacher dashboard, the more you use it, the more time you're going to save to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, but also to really assist your students. In terms of the instruction, and I'll talk about it as I go through the student dashboard and teacher dashboard, you can use this in multiple ways. So if you wanted to use your clever touch screen or your Apple TV or your IWB, whatever the case may be, you can actually teach the phonics, you can teach the reading, you can do read alone, read aloud from your screen. So you can incorporate it into the classroom. You don't necessarily have to do one-to-one. You can use it in workstations if you want to. Where it comes in handy is that when you do use those students to assess on the iPad, all that data is there and all the reports are there for you as well. So it tells you exactly where a student sits, where they sit at a classroom, where they need additional needs in terms of support or whatever the case may be. So there's the inclusivity piece. It's always built with curriculum-led content. And the reason why we build with curriculum-led content is to make sure that from a teaching perspective, what you teach is aligned to learning objectives and learning outcomes. Your training is always free, okay? So if ever you need additional training or you want to do specific training or become very personalized in terms of what you want to do, that training is always available to you. So you've paid for the subscriptions, always reach out to us and tell us if you want to do something additional. Our content, I'm just going to talk a little bit about AI, not to scare anybody, but I generally never talk about AI. We don't use AI to create the content. That's all created by our curriculum team, which are real teachers and real educators. The AI is really assisting you in measuring their skill level. Okay, and what the AI really does, and you'll see it when I show you, is it identifies where a student is actually going wrong and they start to present with a learning gap. The AI kicks in, identifies that there's a learning gap happening, and it closes it down. So it either prevents it or it can close it if one already exists. So that's a little bit about Kaligo. What we have now is our phonics, which, as I mentioned, is being recorded in Scottish. We have our reading comprehension assessment with vocabulary assessment coming in the next couple of months. So I'll show you a little bit about that. Everything comes with teacher guides, lesson plans, so that, again, it's just easy for you to say, okay, I'm in week 1 of autumn term 1. Okay, I know per the DFE or per my spelling statutory requirements what I have to teach. It's all sitting there. I'm going to assign it. It takes 2 or 3 seconds to go straight to your students. Anyway, I'll talk more about different things, and I'm Irish, so I talk a lot, so I'm very sorry for that. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask me questions at any point of this webinar. So I am going to share my screen with you guys. Okay, you should all be able to see my screen, yeah? Okay, if you can't see my screen, just let me know. But what you're looking at here is your teacher dashboard. Okay, so when you log on to Kaligo using your credentials, you'll be brought straight into this screen. There are 3 areas over on the left-hand side that you'll probably pay more attention to and focus on a daily basis. Here we'll tell you what's released. So when we release our reading program, that's going to come up here. When we release our dysgraphia screening, that's going to come up here. If there's a new version released, you'll find all that information there. And what you also see is a snapshot of your classes and your students, independent students over there. In terms of the 3 areas, you also have them sitting down here. In terms of a quick view, in terms of the completed lessons for your students, it's all here. But for today, I'm going to start over on your Kaligo library. So when I scroll down, and I'm looking at administration in terms of your onboarding, and if anybody needs support with this, just let us know. If you click on letter choices, which is probably one of the first things that you're going to do, you have your numbers, your uppercase, your lowercase, your precursive and your cursive. You simply just select precursive or whatever it is you're planning on making your template. If you click along, you'll see how that B is formed. So in terms of your stroke, your position, your pattern, how you form those letters, you just click on the supported template, and that's what's going to be embedded in terms of the teaching instruction. Probably takes about 10 minutes to go through this, and you won't do all of them depending on the year group that you're teaching. So if you're doing like reception, well, then you're only going to focus on your lowercase and your scaffolded. Okay, very easy to do. You can print an export of that. You can click on it here and you'll see that there's a letter formation. If you want to hang it on your school classroom wall, you can, so the kids can visually absorb that information. In terms of classes and students, anywhere you see a plus button is what you click on in order to create a new class, create a new teacher, or create a new student. So if I click on the button here, you can come along, you can say Miss Johnson's class, and you select the year group you add. That's your class set up. Now I want to add my students. Now, if you want to add additional teachers or ASNs into the classroom, just add in there. In terms of your students, you can add an individual student if you already have a classroom set up. But your bulk add, if you click on here, just copy and paste the names. It's pseudonymized anyway, so from GDPR, DRM functionality, that's all secured. But you can add in by copy and paste easily enough. And that will be your student setup. When your students are set up, what I advise is that you work in a standard way until you get to understand the needs of individual students. So you will work for maybe a week, a couple of weeks, and as a teacher, you'll start to identify some that have different needs or challenges. Kaligo is built so that it will support children with low proficiency or with special educational needs, and it will also support those children that are high academic achievers. And I'll show you how that happens in a couple of minutes. In terms of the settings, when you click on a student and you click into settings, what you see here is visual guidance. So if you have any children that are potentially dyslexic, if you click on the yellow background and you have the black writing, you know that those students will be able to differentiate that text much easier than if it was black writing on a white background, etc. You have visual guidance as well, so you can change thickness, you can change colors, you can change the spacing between the lines to be large or small. In terms of perception and the instruction, if children need a bit more time to understand what's being asked of them, you can play the handwriting instruction at a lower speed. So you'll see that it's slow there. For your class, I suggest you click on standard just as you start until you know which children need specific settings. And it's very easy to do. You simply apply it to your whole class. Okay, so there are settings that you can change. If any of you have any neurodiverse students in the classroom and they use headphones, you can enable sound guidance, which means that they don't get told that they get something wrong or right. It plays music, it plays soft music if they get something right. So those elements are built in there as well. In terms of handwriting and difficulty levels, so I'll talk a little bit about this. If you have, say, a child that is dyspraxic or is dyslexic, when a student is asked to write, they're always asked to write and follow the shape, the direction, and the order of handwriting. And sometimes that's too much in terms of their cognitive, of having to think about all those things. You can break the handwriting process down from a scaffolded perspective, so you can have them just analyze only the shape of the path. So if you're writing the letter C, they're not thinking about the shape, the direction, which often overloads them cognitively. But what you can do is you can say, right, we're only focused on the shapes, and then start to build up their working memory or those areas into working towards expected. So you could use that in different ways. In terms of your classroom, I would start with working towards expected. Now, I do get some teachers, and you will see this when I go into the student side of the application, that say, oh, I have the letter C or B or D or A. It looks perfect to me, but I'm getting a wrong score, and I'll show you why that happens. The more you build in the difficulty level is representative of the proficiency levels of certain students. Okay, so I would say start with working towards expected. What doesn't go into their results is feedback on letter. So where they lift a pencil or where they position in or above the lines, it will show them where they're doing that, but it doesn't go back into their results in terms of their direction or their shape or their order, because those things naturally fix themselves. Okay. There are the settings in terms of access. Make sure that when you are working with students, I generally turn the access off unless I want something particular that I want left on for students. Otherwise, they can go out of your assignment and they can start playing around with the solution. And you don't want them to do that if you want them to be focused on what they're learning. Teacher, straightforward, same as the students. Click new teacher, add bulk. Okay. When you want to assign work, we'll go through that in a second, but when you have assigned work, the first thing that you're going to do is you'll want to set your QR codes for your students. To assign work to students and to hand it over to them, you simply click on classes and students. So I'm in Jigsaw. Up here, you'll see skill work QR codes. I click on that and there's your QR codes. So you can laminate them. You can give each student their QR codes, and what they'll do is they'll use their Chromebook, their Android, their iPad, whatever they're using, to scan in daily into their exercises. Okay, very easy to do. So that's the administration side of things in terms of setting up students, in terms of setting up your letter choices, your teachers, etc., and any specific settings that you have to do for individual students. In terms of your content, and I'm in the English version or the UK version of this product, you will have different settings in terms of your Kaligo lessons. But when I click on Kaligo lessons, what you're presented with is your reception, your P1, your P2, your P3. Okay, and it will be the same as what you see here. So say, for example, I click on reception here and I go into teacher resources. This is a new feature for anybody that's been using Kaligo already. This is a new feature. So when I'm in reception and I decide to go into phonics, and I go into when I'm in reception, the first thing you'll see is teacher resources. So if I click on teacher resources and phonic resources, you'll find flashcards, you'll find reading material, you'll find a whole range of additional content in terms of supplemental into the classroom. If I click on teacher guide, you'll see here that there's a little page down here. If I click on the page and I come up here, I can see open PDF or I can download it. That will give you your teacher guide. Okay, so there you go. There's your teacher guide for phase 2. So that will assist anybody that's new to phonics or needs more teaching instruction in terms of your sets and phases across phonics. That's all built into there. Okay. What you have is, sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. What you also have is your lesson plans, which is a more simplified lesson plan of what you're teaching in terms of each phase. So if I click on open PDF here, this is your short version of your lesson planning in terms of your S, A, T, and P in your set 1 of phase 2. So those instructional materials are in there to support you. And again, if you need anything else, our curriculum expert for phonics is based in Dumfries. So she's always happy to jump on a call with you guys if ever is needed. If I click back to Kaligo lessons and I go into year 1, for example, and I go into spelling, you'll see here in terms of statutory requirements, and I go into spelling, it's all built out here for you. So I'm going to quickly show you how to assign a spelling lesson, and it works the same for phonics and it works the same for handwriting. So I come into class, I log on to my teacher dashboard. I go straight into phonics because I'm in term 1. I click on term 1, I click on week 1, I click on my double F, which is part of my statutory requirements that I have to teach. I've got a double F. I click on here. I'm looking at my words. I can customize those words. I add to my lessons. I click my classroom, Mr. Connolly's class. Click all students, or I can individually select students if I'm doing some additional support with those. And I just validate. Once I validate, that's all that content's gone over to those students. Okay, if you wanted to do something additional in terms of week 1, you could go create a new lesson. You could go week 1 if you're doing some intervention or you're doing some supplemental. So I'll go intervention. I will go in whatever the case may be. I'm just going to scribble something here. Go add. I can go in and I can create. I can do it as a spelling. I can prompt them, or I can hide the word completely. But let's say, for example, I go into spelling, click OK. I record the instruction. Hi guys, I want you to spell the words bluff, cuff, tough, rough, and you can do additional content very quickly. The other thing that you could do is if you're in a science class, you can integrate the ability to assess their spelling and their handwriting and their knowledge with science. So you could kind of go, hey guys, I want you to name and write the 5 parts of the plant, and they'll come in and they'll go, okay, stem, flower, etc. So very easily integrated into other disciplines across primary. Once you click assign, that will go straight over to the students in a matter of seconds. You also have generate words. So Gen AI will quickly generate those words for you as well if you needed to do that. Okay. And you'll find it there. So say, for example, if I'm doing phase 3, it's the double O sound. I click on double O, I go next, I do random structure, random words, and I generate my lesson. Those words there, the double O, you can add additional words if you want, and you simply assign it over to your student. So your book, your cook, you'll see there's visual representation. This is what the student is going to see on their dashboard. Importantly, even though Kaligo was originally known as a handwriting solution, and it's great at handwriting, there's no other product out there in the marketplace. The spelling element is purely identification of words and letters, which promotes their reading. It does not assess their spelling, because that's not the purpose of Kaligo in the spelling exercise. And it's the same for writing, right? When you go into your year group, you go into your writing, you'll see your scaffolded version of writing for those year groups as well. So you've got your content, you've got your creative content, you can create new content, you've got your published content per the curriculum. And when you click on Kaligo Lessons, if you create any new content, it will sit here in your school library, and your school library is shared across your school. So if somebody has created a lesson like that integration lesson with science, that will sit in there. So if you're sitting down having a cup of tea saying, oh, I'm going to create something, another teacher goes, oh, I've already created that. Just go into your school library, you'll find it in there. So that's your content. The whole point of it, again, is to quickly assign across to students. So it's broken down by year group. When I come up to monitoring, this is where it gets probably unique in terms of what it does. If I was to click on your classroom, straight away, I'm going to see what the success rate and completion rate is on each exercise across your different range of students. So this is just reception math. We don't really do math, but there is math levels in there as well, just at reception level. So I can see here, Caleb, when you click here, if I press play, I can see how he's forming number 1. So we're assessing his knowledge in terms of the numbers 1 to 3. Click and tick. If I click here, I can see it down there and how he performed. I can do, he'll have a picture of a house. How many houses do you see? And he'll circle the number 3. So we're incorporating different skills into that level. If I come down here and I start looking at handwriting, for example, what's this one? And this will usually show you, so I've got different students in different classes. So this isn't populated, but you can imagine as they complete the exercise, it's going to tell you where they sit, right? So I can look at Caleb here, and I can see he's writing the word bath. He got full proficiency here. I'm doing okay. He's I can see his handwriting, grand. I can see here he made a bit of a mistake, but I can see on the second attempt in terms of correction and remediation and how the system will support him, he's got it correct the second time round, and on the X got it wrong completely. Okay, if I simply close that there, I can start to go down and I can look at other things. I can look at vocabulary, I can look at text dictation, I can look at many different areas If I go here, I can see how well they performed. So spelling test to spelling test, you can see here, and your phonics comes in here as well. Okay, so I've got, do I have it? I don't have it there. Oh, I do have phase 5. So it's telling me what students know and don't know. This is a demo account, so it's not going to show you everything. But if I click on skills acquisition, it's another way at looking at high level information in relation to your students. So I can go across different skills. So I can look at, I can write capital letters and I can say, okay, across the alphabet, Caleb's doing really well. He's got an issue with D, he's got an issue with F, he's got an issue with M, issue with N. Now, as teachers, you're going to know straight away whether something is right or something is wrong, but the system will also help you identify whether there's potentially something else going on. So if I was to click on this, and he's done okay with it the second time round, he's fine. I know that he's fallen below percentages, but here, if you see repetition in terms of writing letters backwards, a word like how instead of who, or was instead of saw, you know that potentially there's dyslexia there. And there may be other signals to identify learning difficulties, which you'll probably obviously report it, and they can go and get assessed, which takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months. But you can start to intervene and support that student now while they're waiting on something. And that may not be the case. It may be just that they have low levels of proficiency. So the skills acquisition is there like features of a text. I can tell here across my students who understands verbs, who understands subjects, who understands adjectives, right? So I can see that this student hasn't got any right in terms of this verb. I can see that Terry got 100% right in terms of this verb. So you can quickly assess all those areas as well. In terms of performance, you can look at different snapshots. So you could take your students in handwriting, spelling, phonics, reading, and you could say, okay, this is how they performed in the first term. Now I want to measure them against how they performed in the second term. So you can do that by clicking on the performance button and putting in your date ranges if you wanted to review that information. That's the teacher dashboard. I know it's a lot of information at the moment, but do play around with it. There's a lot in there. But the message I really want to get across is that it's easy to assign, it's all curriculum led, and it tells you exactly what students know and don't know. And you've got those settings so that it supports all students. So before I go into the student side of things, does that make sense, or does anybody have any questions?
No, thanks. That was great.
Okay. Sarah, are you using those features that are in there?
To be honest, please don't shoot me, but we used it as a spelling tool. That's how we incorporated it into our curriculum here. We used it as a handwriting / spelling aid.
Yeah.
So each week I put the children's, each group's spelling words into Kaligo, and they either did a spelling task or a handwriting related task. And we also had, in parallel to that, I had them progressing through the handwriting, you know, looking at the joins and etc.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we'd used it. Some of the tasks I avoided because I wasn't 100% sure how to use them and what they appeared like to the students. But I can see more clearly now how I can how I can do that going forward. One of the things, very quickly, while I remember to ask, that some of the pupils fed back was that they felt that the feeling, obviously, pencil to paper is more tactile and there's more resistance than there is with a digital pencil on a screen. So I was looking at the possibility of getting like overlays for the iPads. Are you able to recommend something for that?
You could do, and I can send on links to Julie and she can share with you. And we've heard this from maybe 1 or 2 schools, and we probably have over maybe 100 to 200,000 students now on Kaligo, so we don't hear it a lot. But I was at an event, last year's event up in Aberdeen, and somebody came across to me and they were like, the process of writing isn't great, it's not real. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And when I had them, so I'm not trying to sell my stylus, that's not what I'm trying to do, but they had a stylus they were using, and they tried our stylus and they said it was a very different writing a very different writing experience. So I'm not asking what stylus you use, but maybe check the stylus that you're using, because often that can be the case. Okay. And there's 2 or 3 people that came to me about that, and that's in the UK, Scotland, over in UAE and Europe. So I would try that first before you purchase or go to look at an overlay, because we don't get that a lot. So yeah, I would just say do a bit of research into that before you start spending money.
Okay, thank you, will do.
No worries. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I'm actually going to go into the student application itself and show you how the handwriting, spelling, the phonics, the reading that's coming out all works. Because Sarah, I think like going into your 3rd year, I think you'll probably get more value for money out of the product as well when you start. And it does take confidence. I mean, I know that digital literacy, and even I'm the same, like even in work, we're using new software all the time. I'm like, oh God, I just don't want to use any more new software. Can I not just use what I'm using? So I know exactly what the challenge is there. In fairness to you, I can't shoot you because, well, one, I don't have a license for a gun. But the second thing is that the new features have only really started coming out in the last 6 to 12 months. So it probably wasn't there for you to use. So you can't blame yourself for that. But I am going to scan in here. And I'm going to start showing you how dynamic Kaligo is. So I'm just going to, I'll show you the reading comprehension first for what's coming, because people seem to be very excited about this. So I've just scanned in. This is a demo, by the way. We're going to start it at the upper grades. And again, this removes the use of the stylus. Or if you want to use a stylus, you also can as well. So I'm just going to accept. You guys can see my screen here. So again, when I click on here, so student will come in, they'll have their reading exercises, their writing exercise, their spelling, their phonics. They'll know what's been assigned to them. There's different ways in which you can do this, right? So I'm just going to click on it here for now and then explain this in a little bit more detail.
Listen to Kalikat's story, then click on the green thumb to move on to the next part of the lesson.
So I'm going to play the audio version of this. Also, what you have is you have printer PDFs. The student will also be able to put the reading story up on their screen. They can do read alone, read aloud. So you can incorporate this whatever way you want it into the classroom. It doesn't necessarily have to be one-to-one instruction. So you can do differentiated instruction if you wish. But the audio version, just to give you a flavor, here we go.
Kalikat was in Egypt with and Dad. Today, they were visiting the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. I want to see a mummy, said Kalikat. Inside the museum, there were golden masks, statues, and colourful paintings. Kalikat walked slowly and looked around. While Mum took photos and Dad read a sign, Kalikat saw something shiny on the floor.
So I'm just going to put it on pause. So you can do read alone or read aloud different ways, but you can get that the story goes on. So they can either do listening comprehension or reading comprehension. Once they've listened or read the story, they go on to being assessed in terms of their comprehension ability.
Where is Kalikat? Visiting with his family.
So over here on the right hand side, they can play any of these features, or from your Clever Touch dashboard, or from your Clever Touch screen, or whatever screen you're using. You can also do it from the top of the class.
The pyramids, the Egyptian Museum, the White Desert.
Okay.
The sea in the museum. What does Kalikat find on the floor? A key? A coin? A map?
Try again.
So when they get it wrong, they'll get one attempt to get it right again.
About the small wooden door Kalikat finds.
I'm going to come out of that. I'm going to skip past
Match the words to the correct meaning.
So
Select the correct answer.
So this is their vocabulary. So when they click here, they'll be read the
A
sentence.
doorway that can be opened or shut. A long piece of paper rolled up. A body wrapped and preserved. A figure made from stone or metal.
Great, you did it.
So when they do that, obviously what's happening here is you're doing your reading practice, you're checking their comprehension, their vocabulary. All that information goes back to your teacher dashboard. So the teacher dashboard I was showing you will show you exactly what they got right, what they got wrong. Okay, then you can do interventions. In each grade level, I think there's going to be, I think we're planning on 6 to 8 stories, and that will continually build up. So there is SEL built into it as well. So in phonics and in the reading, we always build in social emotional learning. And even in phonics, again, the statutory requirements are there, but there's also discrete reading comprehension built in as well. So that's the reading again. That's the reading side of it. I'm just going to start to show you a little bit about phonics. If I can find my QR code. And again, if anybody has questions, feel free to shout out. So over here, you've got your phonics elements and you'll have your reading, etc., etc. And there are 4 pillars of phonics. So when you teach a phase, when you go on to the next phase, what it will do is it will revisit and review. So you'll see revisit and review down here. And the next thing that you'll be working on is your learn and practice. So you're talking about a new GPC. So we'll talk about the grapheme phoneme correlation. And you will do your learn and practice, building in more instruction, and then your application. How well has it been applied to the students in terms of what they know and what they don't know? So I'm going to flick between a number of things just to give you a flavor of what's there. And again, in terms of your lesson planning, when you look at your scope and sequence for phonics and you use your lesson planning, very quickly, you open it up, you kind of go, okay, on phase 2, set 1, I'm doing the S. I can use my teacher guide for additional instruction if I want to, but if you're used to teaching phonics, great. Okay, so revisit and review.
Listen and match the pictures with the words.
So this is phase 3, and it's reviewing your previous phase. And what you will see for a student, they've got a dot under the individual phonemes, and for your blended sounds, they have a line. So a student should be reading this and coming along going p, s. Okay, so that's how it works. If they click on the
Foil.
The drag and drop, they'll hear the word
Purse. Cow.
Now you
Great,
have to
you did it.
You have to imagine
Listen,
this.
match the pictures with the words.
You have to imagine
Curl.
this with
Joy.
Scottish accent,
Owl.
because you
Great,
pronounce some
you
things
did it.
differently. Okay,
Listen and match the pictures with the words.
that will go on. Again, all that information is always coming back to your teacher dashboard to tell you what they understand, what they know, and what they don't know, and where those gaps exist. Okay, and once you do a revisit and review, your second pillar is always your discover a new GPC. And again, your teacher resource are already there. So if you wanted to print them out as a readable story, you can as well.
And then click on the green thumb.
So if you wanted, they could do one-to-one if you're in the classroom.
Calicat's morning trip with Arthur. Arthur was taking Calicat out for the morning. This was to help Calicat's mum and dad, as they had to clear a patch of the garden to build a shed. I'm sorry, Calicat, it won't be much fun as I need to go to the doctor. Oh, that's okay, said Calicat. I'm looking forward to seeing your new car.
So I think that one's on A or U or O. So you'll go through the story, incorporate whatever type of instruction you want to. You move on. We want to understand what
Use
is it that they knew.
that have the ear sound.
So again, anywhere where you see an audio, you can play.
Crown. Here. Spear.
So they're seeing the EAR sound up here, so they should be selecting here, spear.
Listen and choose the words with the ear sound.
That will build in complexity. Then you're going back into your learn and practice from a teaching perspective. Again, you're
Bring the letters E, A, and R together.
so your
They
handwriting.
make the ear sound.
Sorry, I'm not going to go through the handwriting piece, but the handwriting, as any other phonics program, is incorporated there. Okay.
And then listen and match the words with the pictures.
So, dear. So
Spear,
you've got your learn and practice, and then your application.
listen to the sounds and look at the letters to spell the word deer.
So you've got your isolated phoneme and your blended.
Ear,
So, and you'll hear the sounds as well.
D, ear,
Okay. And again, that will build in complexity. Here's an assessment here, which you have to assess.
match the sound you hear with the grapheme.
So when they click up on the sound here,
S, A, P, T.
so
Great, you did it.
if they're
Match the sound you hear with the grapheme.
getting it right, getting it wrong, again, all that information is going to come across to your teacher dashboard. I'm just going to quickly show you again, everything is covered in terms of what you have to teach in phonics. You can incorporate this with any other phonics program that you have. We have a screener here.
Sort the words into real or fake words. Put the real words into the treasure chest and the fake ones into the basket.
So
Calicat is looking for the real words. Can you help him?
So that will build. Okay, they'll continue to assess. I'm going to go to revisit and review.
Listen to the sounds and find the matching picture. S, A, U. Listen to the sounds and find the matching picture. M, E, T. Each sentence has a missing word. Can you help Calicat find them?
Great, you did it.
Here are some more sentences and words. Can you read them and find the missing words?
So I'm going to just go into practice here for a second. So I just wanted to give you a glimpse of phonics. Obviously, the full range is in there, and you can imagine that, again, it will be recorded in a Scottish accent. In terms of the AI, the handwriting ability, I'll show you a little bit about this and how unique that is, because this is where we see massive progression in spelling, in reading and in handwriting. I'm working on a student application here, so I will select the loop system. So I've got
Trace
EL.
loops following the pattern.
So you'll see that you have watermark, you have guidance right to the end. Obviously, what Kaligo does is when it identifies there's a learning gap, it's going to bring them back to close that learning gap. But it's also going to test their working memory, and it's going to build in complexity so they quickly progress with their handwriting, spelling skills, etc. So once I place my stylus on the iPad, I come along and I'm doing my loops. And I never do this as well as a student does it because I always rush through it. But you can see my result. I got a star there, so I've done okay. It's going to move me on. And it removes the watermark line. It gives me a little bit of entry into the looping. So I come along. I perform. I do okay. I move on. It removes the dots. So it's building in complexity. I move along. At some point, I come along, incorporating line system now, but at any point, if I go wrong, it's going to pick up that the student hasn't followed the pattern, maybe working memory issue, whatever the case may be, it's going to start to support that student. So you can see the watermark coming back in. Full watermark. So as far as I go back or as far as I go forward, it's always going to remediate and correct me. Okay. If I go into, say, for example, I trace patterns, comprehension is always built in. So when I talk about the handwriting process, when you will deliver a handwriting practice book, and Sarah, I'd always say that we always suggest that don't ever step away completely from pen and paper as well, because it is a fully transferable skill, and that's documented through all the scientific research, not just what we did, but going back years and years. And we have spent 10 years researching this. But what I will say is that, like, if you imagine that you're in a classroom, you've got 20 kids in a classroom, it's hard to do one-to-one instruction in terms of handwriting. And what you see is a letter J. You don't expect that, like, there's any issues in terms of the formation. But to show you how unique it is, if I write J here, and that looks like a J, but as soon as I go to hit correct, the student is going to be told, well, actually, there's a question mark over your formation of the letter J. A student can click on this, and it's going to exactly show them where the dynamic model presents itself in terms of the correct method.
Look carefully at your own trace.
And it's going to show them where they went wrong. A student can play that side by side by clicking both, and they'll see that there's an issue in terms of the shape formation. So I want to come along, I want to do a better J. So you'll see straight away, I'm starting to increase my proficiency level because my direction was shape isn't great, okay? And as I start to perfect my handwriting, students will see better results. Now, depending on the difficulty level you have set as well. As I go forward,
drag and drop the correct shape into the blue area.
We have a little bit of comprehension built in to make sure children understand what it is they're being asked to do. Over in the top right hand corner, and again, these are all the support mechanisms for students. If I click on this, it's going to show me, and I have the big screen on. I should have selected the small screen, but when I select the smaller screen for students, it will show me all my letters. But when I click down on these question marks, it will tell me what part of the writing process I'm doing well in and what parts of the process I'm not doing well in, which allows the student to focus on that. So straight away, the student goes, okay, my shape was good, but in this one, my direction was wrong. The reason why that was, I started from this point and went up. And my direction, I recurred on my direction, my shape wasn't great. And that's how the correction and the progression in terms of closing that learning gap through instruction exists. If I go into the handwriting process and I go into, say, I can write capital letters, I can go into any of these, or it's self-autonomous as well, right? So you can say to a student, right, I want you to write these words, and they simply click on the box here and they can type in the words. So there's a level of self-autonomy there for the students as well. But for the purposes of showing you how the AI works,
following the model
process, you'll see here, I've got a T or a I, and I've got representation. I can listen to it as many times as I want, or I can actually play it again. Okay, so my first stroke is down, my second stroke is across, and that's what I selected in terms of the letter formation. So I'm going to go across here. I'm going to write a T. I just want to show you something quickly, and I'll try to do it as fast as I can. I'm going to write the or up there. So it looks like an or. And you never pick this up in a handwriting book. I go up, I go down, I go across. So what the student has written is TRAIN, the results of which the or and the M is an issue. The system is going to look at this and kind of go, there's no learning gap in the TAI, not going to waste my time remediating. I'm going to zone in exactly where the learning gap occurred.
Look
and
at the model.
Can have a look at this, or they don't have to. They'll get used to this modeling. But for the support is always there. But as I go forward, Kaligo is only going to bring them into where the learning gap has happened. It's not going to waste time on anything else. So it's going to correct and remediate that student. It's going to make sure that they have resolved that issue. And you move forward. And I've got my N. Okay. So I'm up. That's where I went wrong. Now I got it right. Okay, so that's where it closes the learning gaps. And again, it works through handwriting fully up to cursive. The spelling, again, quite unique in terms of its ability for the script. So if I click into this, I'm going to write feather, and you can hide these words. You can leave voice recordings. It's up to you. But I'm going to write this word really, really quickly, okay? And you'll see how dynamic it is in picking up the letters. And the assessment here is on letter identification and words, not their ability to spell. So I write the word feather, breaks it down by syllable. You'll see that my F isn't great, my E isn't great. There's a lot of letters there that aren't fantastic, but the purpose of the spelling assessment element here is for spelling, not for handwriting. And if I go across and I spell this phonetically, for example, how it will start to correct and
You forgot
remediate.
one or more letters. You added one or more incorrect letters.
So it'll tell them where they forgot a letter, where they added a letter, and it'll give them another addition. So
Try
what we've
again.
seen from impact trials. So I'm going to write this one now in cursive. What we've seen from impact trials is an increase in proficiency in spelling also. You also have, I can identify different text, so you could use this as a phonics program as well if you want to.
On the board, drag all the words that start with the letter B.
Okay. You also have your vocab in there. You can select, there's gamification there as well. You also have, from an SEM perspective, you also have tutorials for students that may be dyspraxic or whatever the case may be. So if you're ASN or you're SEN, so if your ASN wants to assign some exercises to help the students in terms of their fine motor skills, they can do. So I don't want to go through too much, and obviously we do isolated training as well. So I am going to stop there, and I'm going to stop sharing. So that's Kaligo. That's what's in there. The reading is coming as well. I know we've got 10 minutes left. What is also coming is audio speech recognition, and what that is that a student will have stories in Kaligo. A student will be able to read into Kaligo, and Kaligo is going to assess their phonological knowledge, their reading fluency, and it will also measure their reading fluency with comprehension. So that's a big one that's coming. And text dictation for the upper grades is going to be coming as well. I think that's coming in December, January. These are features that are going to be free for you as well. So where you're doing compositional writing, it will identify the right use of preposition, full stop, comma, where something should have been capitalized. So that's more on the composition, creative writing side of things as well. So we're continually developing the solution for full literacy as well. And then you have your vocabulary and your grammar curriculum going to be coming in as well. So that's it. I'm going to open the floor for questions. And I hope you saw some value in what you saw today. And as I say, like, we talk to schools all the time, and a lot of schools are saying now with the additional features, there's cost savings to them because they're dropping off some other products as well. So it's there for you for free, all those other features that are developed. So step into them. You don't have to go full force into them. You can start looking at the phonics maybe a little bit. Up to yourselves how you want to use it. But yeah, I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm sure you all have at least 10 questions for me each.
I think you've answered all of mine. Thank you.
Okay. And Sarah, you are right. Look, the writing experience is not the same as pen and paper, but there has been differences. It is closer with different styluses. So I would say research that, but then we always advise, like, I'd always say to schools, integrate it, pen and paper. Like, you should be using Kaligo for assessment, formation, quick progression into handwriting. So, for example, I will show you very quickly a okay. I'm going to show you results from some of the impact trials, which will be good to see for you guys as well.
I definitely, I mean, the first year we did it, we were part of an impact trial, and I definitely saw, some major progress in our class, and we're just using it in the middle of our school at the moment because it is quite expensive for a small school, in terms of our overall budget.
Yeah.
And it definitely has had an impact. It was just a comment that a few of the pupils made, and I understand it myself because I am super fussy about what pen I write with and how it feels on the page, and I can't stand to write with these very waxy pencils that feel funny. I get that. It was to do with the kind of sensory experience, I suppose, and how it moves on the surface. That's not to say that it's not developing the muscle memory, and it's not, it's correctly teaching them how to do it and the formation and everything, and it definitely has an impact, and I've seen that myself. It just was a couple of the pupils last year had mentioned that particular aspect, that they felt that it was very slidey and they found that quite difficult, and I think some of them maybe our pens don't have that, the feature with the pressure.
Yeah.
We've got actually borrowed from Love Learning, thank you, Julia, and team, and they're great. They work well, but yeah, just this sort of the sort of sliding feeling as it's going across the screen.
That's fair. What I will say is, because when I do demonstrations, so I was doing one with a class there about 3 weeks ago, and what I found is that, and I'm sure it's not happening in your class, and it's different with different classes. Some children were writing with, I don't know if you can see it here, but with the iPad up like that. So they were writing like this, but there is palm rejection built into Kaligo. So they should actually be writing with their palm on the iPad.
Yeah, no, we spoke about that at the beginning. There are a few of them that are always, every time they do it, they try to sit with the iPad at an angle on the which doesn't work. So we have iPads flat, or some of them just like at a very slight angle. We used to have these slopes for some children that really were very effective. So they're able to do that with the iPad, but not, like you've just demonstrated, almost at 90 degrees to the table. And they're trying to, so.
I get it. We do, we get very few people that say to us what you're mentioning there. Very few.
Just one child, and then I suppose another child's heard it, and they've said the same thing. And you know what it's like. It's like
that's fair. Like it does exist out there, but I know that there are covers that you can put on the iPad or your devices. So let me find that for you, and let me check out the cost as well to see if we can do anything on that. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the cost, look, what we're looking to do is, and I know I spoke to Julie about this, I think the more Kaligo starts getting used across Scotland, the cheaper we can make it for the council. And that's something that we're definitely focused on. The other thing is, as we start to incorporate like your phonics, your spelling, your reading comprehension, we would hope that schools see that there's a reduction in paper and there's a reduction in other software content that they're possibly using to justify the price.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's value added, isn't it? There's much more. Yeah.
And when we looked at it, we looked at handwriting. I think handwriting solutions are about, like, print solutions are about £10. Is that like, what's the price of the print solutions in the Scottish market? So a handwriting book in the Scottish market.
Okay, so
any idea?
We haven't bought handwriting. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what a handwriting, a jotter would be. We have textbooks that the children would copy from, but of course, then there's print costs and things. So no, it definitely has, and I am really looking as much as possible to reduce the use of paper and ink.
Yeah.
So it's obviously a really effective way to do that. And still, you've still got all of that tangible evidence. The biggest problem that we've had is not having one-to-one devices.
Yeah.
So that when
Totally.
the children go to log in, obviously they're logging into an iPad somebody else has logged into previously, and it takes a little while, and it doesn't remember, the app doesn't remember what they've actually done. So if I've set them a task, I can see that they've done it, but when they log in on their dashboard, it says it hasn't been done. And
But
when I raised
their QR code is unique to them. So that's okay. Tell me a little bit. Well, maybe we'll take that offline. Can you send me an email about that? Because when a student, like we have schools globally that have shared devices, and when they scan into the QR code, it brings them into their exercises. So this is interesting. So I'd love to hear more about that and what's happening, because that's
I did comment on that previously, that the lady that had the lead on this before, I spoke to her about it, and she had said that the reason it does that is to try and kind of reduce the time it takes to load everything. So
because
when the child logs in, their specific tasks are there, but if there were exercises within that task, you know how it's broken down. So for example, if they had 5 spelling words, maybe they did 3 yesterday. When they log in tomorrow on a different iPad, it tells them that they haven't done the 3 that they did yesterday.
Oh, okay. That shouldn't be the case, because last year, I'm here a year, the first thing that I did is that it was taking a little bit longer to load. So when a student first logs in as a new student, it probably takes about 30 seconds. And then after that, as there's assignments going on, additional content assigned over to students, it's about 3 seconds. And Nessa, I like have no doubt that she told you something. And when I said no, I mean, Nessa has definitely told you the wrong information. I'll get our IT department to get onto that ASAP and get that fixed for you. That shouldn't be happening.
Okay, thanks very much.
No worries, it doesn't happen anywhere else. But what I was quickly going to show you, just very quickly, and I know, Sarah, you talked about the handwriting progress. This is a trial from Perth and Kinross. So very quickly, it's 2 months, 2 9-year-old students. This is what their handwriting looked in February. This is what their handwriting looked like 2 months later. So you can see them progressing from lowercase right into cursive, really neat, legible handwriting. Over here, you see lowercase cursive. So there's massive progression in terms of spelling, handwriting. But I think that was Julia coming in there. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to stop presenting. But if there's any more questions, and Sarah, let me get back to you on this, because that's not the case. We will get that resolved for you, because it's not happening anywhere else. So there's no reason why it should be happening in your school.
Right, sorry about that. I'm sure I messaged about it. I did email support about it very early on, possibly during the first year I was using it.
Okay.
And it certainly still seemed to be happening last year as well.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I haven't used it yet this school session yet, because I've not set up my class, but
be interesting to see whether it does happen, because when I came in April, I made all those changes from September onwards. So let me know if you see it, and if you see it, I'll get the whole IT department on it.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Thank you.
John, any questions from yourself or your team?
The only question that we had, I'm glad it was recorded, because that was a lot of information. So we were talking about is I think we just need to go away and just play about with it now ourselves for a couple of weeks. And then if there's anything, we'll get back to yourselves if we're struggling with anything. The only thing that we said was, and our colleague maybe who's done this before, is what's the login? Do we have like individual teacher logins, or is there a school login, or who would have that information for me to pass on to my team?
So you will have a school account. Yeah, so once your school account is done, you have one administrator, and that administrator will go in. They simply, I'll do it for you here. They log into the application, click on login. You put in your details. It will bring you through to this page. And then when you want to set up additional teachers, all you do is you go into teachers, create new teacher, and you put in the teacher email address. So GW, whatever the case may be. That credential then gets sent over to the teacher. They go in, set a password, and then they're set up.
Okay, that's great. I'll check with the teacher that's been on before. She might be the administrator for it. So, but if there's any problems, I'll give you a wee email.
Give me a
John,
shout.
if she doesn't have it,
Yeah.
then I can do it from
Okay.
the Aberdeenshire dash.
Okay, super.
So
Thanks,
just
Julia.
let me
I'll give
know.
you,
Okay.
yeah, I'll give you an email then if there's any issues with that. But
Yeah,
I'll touch base with her
grand.
tomorrow, and yeah, like I say, we'll just play about with it. We'll see how we get on with it, and if there's any questions, like I say, we'll just get in touch.
Perfect. Thanks, John.
Super. Thanks. No problem, guys. Thanks again.
Thanks all.
No worries. So I just want to say, Phil, I like the new voices that are attached to the speaking. I'm sure Sarah picked up on that as well. It's a lot better than the robot